Hello everyone, my name is Pratik Tambre and today we're at the 8th edition of the Asia Pacific Precious Metals Conference here in Singapore. I have Mr. Dean Subramanian from Rand Refinery here. Hello sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to be here again.
Yes sir, as you told me that last year we had a conversation about GBI and the ASM sector in Africa and how Rand Refinery is helping the ASM sector and coordinating with them and assisting them to build their footprint into the gold industry in a very large way. So if we can just talk about the GBI, the Gold Bar Integrity Program first, as you are one of the first people to join the interface and coordinate with the LBMA. If you can just talk about that, sir.
So the GBI Gold Bar Integrity Program is actually a program that started some time ago. We've been working on that program now almost over 2 years. And like you said, the concept is important, rock to ring. And what makes this program for Rand Refinery much valuable than other refineries around the world is that 99.9% of Rand Refinery gold is mine source, single source.
Yeah.
For us, any product of ours that has a serial number, we can trace that back to its original source because we don't take scrap or secondary gold. So for us, this GBI program adds immense value for an organization like Rand Refinery and we were also part of the early adopters of that program. And most of my depositors being large-scale mines and shareholders, that's part of the World Gold Council. So it takes you through the entire value chain.
If you can just tell us a little bit about the interface and how easy is it to use GBI. I was talking to Miss Ruth Crowell as well, and she told me that the interface is pretty much easier to handle. So if you can just give me your side of the story as well.
Originally, there was lots of teething problems with any new technology that you want to implement. But the good thing now is, when the deposit comes to Rand Refinery, that is actually captured by the mine. The mine captures the deposits. We are currently working on mines that are not capturing the deposits or have not basically, they've not interfaced or into the GBI program. So I must say, there has been lots of improvement on it. It works fine for us. The only issue we've been having was, which is the final assay? Because obviously when the mine has got a preliminary assay and they capture that, but at the end of the day, it's the refinery assay that becomes the final assay. So we've cleared all those teething problems. And I must say, Exodus with the implementation of the new version 10 has made this much easier now.
Miss Ruth Crowell was telling that there are monthly checks and you have to feed into the data monthly. What do you think about that rather than an annual feeding of data, which takes, I think, a year's time to process?
Yeah, it's good because at the end of the data needs to be real time, right?
Yeah.
Because if tomorrow I make a product with the serial number, I must be able to trace it to that mine source. Gold is not sitting down for a year and waiting. You're not waiting for product. So to me, you actually need to get there onto a daily basis where the data is captured. And this data will also be used by the LBMA when they perform the LBMA audit in terms of your sourcing. So it'll take out lots of administration from this process and just make our life simpler. That's what it is about. It's about simplicity and traceability.
So what is your view about this? Should more people join the GBI program, and how long do you think will it take for the whole industry to adopt this new feature?
Because at the end of the day, we want to ensure there's full traceability from mine to product. So everyone needs to join, because if you have other mines that are not joining, then you're going to have a gap in the value chain, because you can have a product that you can't trace, a product you can trace. So at the end of the day, the sooner everyone joins, because you're going to have full members in terms of mines, and if everyone else joins, then you'll have full traceability.
If you can just tell us about your work with the ASM sector and the government sector in Africa, and how is that shaping up in the last year?
The conversation around ASM has been going on maybe for the last 10 years now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad recently we started getting lots of traction, especially in Africa. There's very mature ASM markets in Africa. One of them is Ghana. Yeah. We're working very closely with Ghana, together with the central bank and the regulator in the country. And as part of Rand Refinery, it makes 100% sense to bring the ASM into the mainstream. So we're finding lots of traction with that, because I think one of the challenges with the ASM sector is liquidity and how you bring liquidity. And the best model that we find is where you work together with the central bank, they aggregate, create liquidity. And at the end of the day, I think lots of the governments around the world, especially ASM, they want to see the ASM sector come into the LBMA ecosystem, because that's what creates credibility. Not only credibility, but it's about liquidity, right?
Yeah.
Because if ASM doesn't come into the LBMA sector, they're going to take a discount on it. So for us, the quicker we bring it into the mainstream and as part of the LBMA ecosystem, everyone will get paid fair value for their gold.
If you can just tell us about the need for financing in the ASM sector and how important it is for the upliftment of that sector.
I think financing for the ASM sector is critical, because if there's no funding or liquidity, it's going to end up in the parallel market, and you don't really want that. And that's why we say working together with the central banks, because the central banks now, they want to show up their own reserves. So what they do is they use local currency to buy gold from the ASM sector, convert that into LBMA bars, and that creates liquidity for the country. So to me, I think that's why you've had the market on the side, because there's been no liquidity for the AM sector. The sooner we create liquidity for them, the quicker they come into the mainstream and into the ecosystem.
So just about liquidity, what are the two main points where people can bring liquidity in this particular sector?
So it all depends, because if you look at the government of that country, that where the ASM sector is, what they want to do is they want to show up their reserves, so they use local currency to that. But in the same breath, you have to have other larger bullion banks who have presence in those countries that need to start supporting this market, because anything won't work if you don't have liquidity.
If you can just tell us a little bit about the ESG initiatives at Rand Refinery.
So we spoke about this last year, and I'm glad to say, as Rand Refinery, we've now finally implemented our solar. So we have a 5 megawatt solar plant. The plan is for us to run our refinery 100% during daylight hours. We're going to put battery storage so we can run the refinery 100%. So it will be true green gold, which means Rand Refinery's gold will be manufactured or refined from green energy. And also our products will come from green energy. We also want to be a zero effluent plant. We're reducing our effluent on site, because this is holistically the model. Because I understand you have other refineries around the world, because it's recycled gold, they call it green gold.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, gold had a footprint, right? You cannot forget that. And we are 99% mine doré refinery. But if you look at the mines around Africa and all the social impact there, so our story is just much bigger than just refined gold.
Can you just tell us the changes you have seen in the APPMC since its inception, and how has it changed since the first edition to the 8th edition?
I mean, I remember when I first came to the conference, it was in 2018. I think at that time you only had less than 300 delegates.
Yeah.
And if you look at today, you have more than 600 delegates. I think they had to cut down the number of individuals that they allowed. And it's shown how this market has grown. And if you look at the different types of individuals that come in here, it's not the same faces you see. You see new faces, you see different entrants. So that to me is very exciting. And as Rand Refinery, you know, the ASEAN market for us is an important market. We use it as a stepping stone into the other broader market.
Thank you so much, sir, once again. Thank you so
You're
much.
most welcome. Thank you.